Hi, everybody. It's Helen McConnell here from helenmcconnell.com. And on today's video, we're going to talk and tap about tapping into your highest wisdom, into the source of all that is, God, if you will. Whether you believe in God in the religious sense or not, there is a highest source of all creation. There just is. There has to be a unified source of all creation. You have access to that source. That source created you and everything else that you can see or not see that ever has been or ever will be. So getting clear and connected with that source can completely change your life in such a profound way. It's not difficult to do. It just takes some practice. And then once you get the practice of doing it, then remembering to do it. Have you ever had a difficulty or a problem and you sat around trying to figure it out and can't figure it out? That's because you're trying to figure it out on your own with your intellectual human thinking. And we've been given the gift of thought, but we tend to misuse it. So I'm going to invite you to get in the habit of anytime you have an issue, a problem, something as simple as, I don't know what I'm supposed to be working on right now, go to your source, go to your true source. Can you imagine if governments and, well, if militaries did this, if military leaders did this, went to their source, said, how should I handle this? And then listened and actually did it, the world would be a very different place. And this is our future. This is what we're hopefully evolving into, is a humanity that is connected with its source. So we'll do a little tapping and then we'll practice. So take a deep breath and notice any resistance you have to the idea of asking your source for wisdom, for advice, I'd say, or guidance is probably a better way of saying it. Because I've never had the experience of source giving me advice, but rather guidance. This is a yes, or this is a no, or plopping in some amazing idea into my receptive mind. So notice your resistance to even accepting the idea of this. Now, I'm going to tell you briefly, I got introduced to this idea a long time ago when I got sober in AA. Because one of the steps is to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand God. And I could understand that from my personal life, but I had a business to run. And I told my sponsor, God can't run my business. God doesn't know how to run my business. And she guided me to realize that God, or whatever you want to call it, is not going to come down and run your business, but God will guide you if you're open to hearing. And then as I ran that business from a new perspective, from a more heart-centered perspective, the people at the corporate office would come and go, how the heck are you getting these sales? Because our sales had just gone through the roof. And I said, I guess you'll just have to come and watch because I can't really explain it. So it really does work. So I invite you to notice your resistance, and we're going to tap on the resistance. Just say, even though, and repeat after me, I have this resistance to turning my life over to the care of the one true source. You can say God, it's a whole lot easier. Say, I love and accept myself. And I'm going to hang on to this resistance. Even though I have this resistance to turning my life over to the care of the highest wisdom, I love and accept myself. And I love the way things are turning out for me, the way I'm doing them now. Even though I have this resistance to turning my life over to the care and guidance of the highest wisdom, and it seems difficult to let go of this resistance, I love and accept myself. And I give myself permission just to give it a try. Tap on top of your head and say, how much worse could it be? And if you're totally successful, then you could say, how much more successful could I be? Side of the eye. I'm willing to give it a try. Under the eye, a consistent try. Under the nose, tapping into my highest wisdom. On the chin, asking for guidance. Collarbone, and learning to receive that guidance. Under the arm, how much worse could my life get? Top of the head, and it can only get better. On the eyebrow, and better and better. Side of the eye. Any problem that I have in the next week, under the eye, I commit to tapping into higher guidance. Under the nose, and listening to that higher guidance. On the chin, and using that higher guidance. Collarbone, and noticing where it takes me. Under the arm. I can do that. All right, take a nice deep breath in. The thing to understand is that highest guidance, highest wisdom, the source of all that is, all intelligence, eternal creativity is love. Not the kind of love like I'm in love with my boyfriend, but love, the energy of love and creation. And so when we tap into that and listen, we are co-creating with love. And if it feels really weird when you're doing it, it's most likely because you have been out of the habit of doing that. You've been in the habit of thinking for yourself and just reacting rather than responding. This is a very powerful tool. So I'm going to show you briefly. So I'm going to show you briefly how to do it. And you can adapt this, but this is how I do it. First of all, I get quiet. I mean, I sit still. And this isn't going to take a long time. And you'll get so in the habit of doing it that you will use it at the grocery store when you're trying to figure out what to buy for dinner. But you can use it for absolutely anything. You get really still. And you give I usually tap and say, I give myself permission on the eyebrow to do nothing. Side of the eye until I receive some sort of guidance. And then you just tap around. And I can already hear people resisting that. Well, I don't have time to sit and do nothing. Well, you don't have time not to. I know your life is busy. I know all of our lives are really busy, but I'm talking about sitting for 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Once you get the hang of this, it doesn't take very long, but you got to get a little quiet. And then there are a couple ways to do this, but I'm going to suggest you imagine the source of all that is up there, even though it's not up there. It's really kind of in here. But imagine this big, huge whiteboard in the sky, and you write your problem on the whiteboard or send it up in a balloon or however you want to do it. But connect with your source and say, please give me guidance about such and such, and be specific about your problem, the thing that's bugging you. And then you sit and wait. Now, I like to close my eyes, so don't do this when you're driving, but you can sit and close your eyes and just notice what comes into your mind when you quiet your mind. You got to get your mind quiet, though, because if you're busy thinking about how to solve this problem, you won't hear your guidance. Guidance is a still, small voice, very still, very small, very powerful. So you might get an image. You might get a thought, a new thought, a loving thought. You might get a creative idea or an inspiration. And I invite you to trust that. If it feels like it's coming from a loving place, not a scared place, then trust it and do it, even if it doesn't make any sense. And follow what guidance gives you. Because a lot of times we don't get direct guidance from point A to point way at the end, point D, but instead we may get guidance to point A, and from there we get guidance to point B, point C, and point D. It's like your inner GPS, your inner maps. Your map app doesn't tell you every step to take on the way, because you might ignore some of the steps and then the app will have to reroute you. But the app will always get you there, and so will your highest wisdom. I've covered this a lot of times in a lot of videos, but I encourage you to listen. So this is why people pray, but praying is like talking to God or talking to that higher source, and meditating or opening to receiving is the listening to the response. So I invite you to do this and practice and get so that you can get quiet in the middle of a conversation and allow in your response to the person you're talking to. And just start to watch how and notice how much better your life gets, how much easier it gets, how much more in the flow you are more of the time. Not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But you will feel much more in alignment. All right. Subscribe, click the like button, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.